On this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast, we meet an executive goddess here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Don't miss it. Welcome, everyone, to the Open in Indiana podcast, where we feature the people, places, and events that make Indiana a great place to live, work, and visit. Today, our guest is the executive goddess for Elizabeth Maora Sickles. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for being our guest on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
So Elizabeth, let's talk a little bit about what you do for your customers as executive goddess at Elizabeth Maora.
Absolutely. So we have a really fun business. We do all things short-term rentals. So if you think Airbnb and Vrbo, we get to welcome guests to our state and to the different cities that we're in so that they have a great time. So we do property management and hosting for a lot of properties here in Indiana. And we also do rehabs for clients that are out of town and that are local, as well as interior design. So we get to do, like I said, lots of fun stuff.
Wow, that's quite a list of services you're able to provide.
Yes, it is never a dull moment.
So Elizabeth, let's talk about your background and how you got started.
Sure. So I'm from Indiana originally, from the east side. I'm a farm girl. And then I left. I have an undergrad in engineering. So I worked all over the world actually for 15 years in different capacities, mainly for Fortune 100 companies. And then I ended up leaving corporate in 2016 for the great unknown. I've always enjoyed hosting. And when I moved to Indianapolis, it was just kind of a natural fit.
And so what were some of the steps in getting your business up and running?
So one of the first things is, number one, networking and word of mouth. Because when I moved to Indy, I didn't know anybody, because I actually moved here from Michigan, and I'm not from Indianapolis. So I did a ton of networking, and that's the biggest thing. That's how I got my first client, is because they knew I had Airbnb my personal property. So they're telling other people. So definitely networking. Also, a huge thing is making sure that you have a great CPA and bookkeeper, because even though I love numbers, but I am not a bookkeeper or CPA. Those are really kind of the two biggest pieces of advice that I would love to give people to do.
Absolutely. And so, Elizabeth, let's talk about some of the growth since you've gotten your business out there and done your networking and found happy clients to work with. Can you walk us through a little bit of that process?
Sure. So, excuse me, once the clients contact us, they're always contacting us for either interior design or to do hosting and property management for their short-term rentals. So how it works is we pretty much furnish all of the properties that we manage. So that's super helpful. So what's nice is that we're total peace of mind. So when a client wants a short-term rental, we do absolutely everything for them. We set the property up. I'll do an analysis for them, so what they can expect both in the low season as well as the high season. We set it up, we put it on, we do all of the marketing for them. So we put it on all the different websites. Also, we have a lot of guests that are reoccurring, so they will book directly with us. We take care of all maintenance, all the cleaning. I do have a cleaning business as well. So we do absolutely everything, all of the, like I said, any type of maintenance, all the lawn care, absolutely everything. So, because when I hire somebody, I don't want to have to worry about anything. So that's how I run my company as well. So whether we help them, I have my realtor's license. So whether we help them also select and buy the property for them, we can come in at any step of the way.
But it sounds like you're able to walk someone through all the way and arriving at the decision that this is something they want to go into and invest and start their own short-term property. And you'll walk them through each step of the way of choosing the right home, purchasing and getting it ready, and then making sure that the guests continue booking, right?
That's right. And we've had some branches off of this, and one of them is doing the project management. So right now we're managing a project. It's a large rehab. It's $150,000 rehab for a super cool house here in Indianapolis. So that's a really cool part of the job. And so we've learned a lot of lessons in how to set the property up and what works well and how to really optimize it for a short-term rental, or if you're rehabbing a property and you're going to sell it back on the residential market. So it's really just so educational.
So Elizabeth, let's dig into the term short-term rental because there's a popular app out there, Airbnb. Now, are you saying as far as you can do things like that, a couple nights stay similar to that, as well as some, slightly longer but not committed lease? Kind of walk us through that, please.
Sure. So for us, on all the platforms that we're on, we have a 2-night minimum. And then the actual true definition of a short-term rental is less than 29 nights. So for our properties, again, we have a 2-night minimum, and that's to cut out riffraff and, that type of thing. And then so I do traditional property management as well. So that means a guest that's on an annual, a 1-year lease. But for our short-term properties will go anywhere from 2 nights all the way up to 3 to 4 months, depending on what the guest needs. So it's a fantastic, flexible property for someone to stay in.
And so Elizabeth, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about your favorite property that's currently available?
Sure. So, part of the evolution too of, growing a business is that we've been able to get some really luxury properties. So we have our most luxurious property. It's a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath house in Fountain Square, which is a very popular neighborhood in Indianapolis. Our client actually had the house built. This was her second new build, and it is just gorgeous. There are high-end finishes. Our guests absolutely love it. We have a guest, actually, it's kind of funny. He was with us. He only booked for 3 nights initially. This was at the end of last year. Then he rebooked, and then he just called us today because he wanted to stay another week, but we have another guest coming in. So we're actually moving him to another property, but it's beautifully laid out, and it's just so nice, especially whenever the guests really appreciate all the extra touches that are in the property.
Awesome. And so Elizabeth, how can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you if they want to learn more or if they're ready to book?
Sure. So you can contact us via the website, which is Elizabeth Maora, which is MAORALLC.com. You can also, we're on Instagram and Facebook, and you're also welcome to send us an email. Our email is welcome@elizabethmaora.com, and we will get you taken care of.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being our guest today. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you for catching this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. Catch our next episode soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. If you enjoyed listening, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or on our website, openindiana.com/OII podcast. Thanks for listening.